Welcome back to Thorgals. Thanks for watching, viewing, and subscribing. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button below. Now, without further ado, let's get right into how to do handstands. Too many people out there are preaching the perfect form, getting your arms nice and straight, legs straight, feet together. Nah. Yeah, that's the prettiest handstand, but that's down the road. If you want to just learn how to get onto your hands and hold a handstand consistently, I'm going to make it as simple as possible, okay? Listen closely, there's just a few steps to it. The first one, your hands. You need to spread them as wide as possible before and when you're gripping the ground. Spread them wide, grip the ground, okay? You got that? Your fingers are your toes. That's how we're balancing. You have your hands nice and wide, okay? Put your arms on the ground in a comfortable position. Some people say middle finger straight up and down. Others, maybe your thumb straight up and down. I don't want to see outside of that, where your internal rotation or overly external rotated, but somewhere in there. I kind of like my pointer finger straight up and down. Now is when we start having fun. You got to get comfortable with being upside down, okay? How do you get comfortable upside down? Either you can practice doing headstands, or in my preference, get those hands nice and wide, clamp them on the ground, in the comfortable position, shoulder width apart, maybe slightly outside of, and get into handstand. It doesn't have to be pretty. It can look however you want, but just be upside down and get used to breathing upside down. Be comfortable upside down. Notice how I can talk to you. Like, I'm not worried about balancing right now. It's just about being upside down and being comfortable there, okay? Wide hands. Comfortable position where you feel like you can support as much weight as possible. That's going to vary from person to person. Once you're comfortable with being upside down, now we can learn the handstand. And the handstand's a lot more simple than people make it out to be. Obviously easier said than done. There's three main components. Your hand placement, so that you can support your body. And then your hips have to be over your shoulders and your hands. If you don't believe me, stand. When you're standing, where are your hips and shoulders? They're over your feet. So why should it be any different when you're doing a handstand? Think about it when you're standing. Your hips are over your feet, which are over your shoulders. Everything's in a line, right? If your hips go back, your shoulders have to go forward. It's just the same thing, but inverted when you're doing a handstand. In order to practice doing a handstand, or understanding what it's like being in a handstand, you're comfortable with being upside down. Now, we gotta get comfortable with what a handstand feels like, and that's this. You're off the wall, hips are over your shoulders, which are over your hands. And then you're balancing by using your fingertips. Your fingers are grabbing the ground, constantly working to keep you balanced. And you're not worried about where your legs are. This is the thing that kills me online. These people are so worried about straight legs, straight arms, trying to look perfect for the camera. You don't need to do that. Yeah, if you're trying to hold a handstand for as long as possible, which eventually is a good goal. My goal was to hold one for a minute. And the only way I got over the hump of going from like 45 seconds to a minute was I had to lock out my arms so that I took less pressure off my muscles, and I kept a straighter handstand. As you can see there, that's pretty straight for me. I used to be a lot more arced, but that was fine. The whole premise of doing handstand is getting comfortable with being upside down, and then you can hold it and then have fun with it. And then you do whatever you want with it. If you want to do handstand push-ups, you can do handstand push-ups. You can hold it for as long as possible. You can do crazy leg things. I'm not that mobile, so I'm working on the crazy leg things, but we're getting there. Once you get comfortable with understanding, okay, I'm balancing here in a handstand, you're like, oh shit, this is the golden goose. This is what we're looking for, the lost treasure. Now that you know what it feels like, let's work on getting into that without using a wall. Before we can't use a wall, you gotta use it. And the best way to use it, in my opinion, this is in the Bible, but I think this is gonna help a lot more people because I don't see any of this online. It's gonna help you the most in your handstand progress is when you're putting your hands down, away from the wall, give yourself at least a foot. What I'm gonna teach is getting your shoulders ahead of your hands. What that allows you to do is allows you to get your hips closer to the top of your hands. I can't express this next part enough. The closer your hips are to your hands, the easier the handstand will be. The closer they are as high as they can be before you go into a handstand, the easier it is. For people that are super flexible, you can just literally come down here and you just got to work on lifting your legs up and over your head. But most of us don't have that flexibility. If you do, lucky you, I think you're gonna get a handstand down a lot quicker than most. If you're muscle bound and very tight and can't get your hips very close to your hands, that's all right. There's hope for you yet. I was that way. And this is how I'm gonna teach you. If you're that muscle bound and tight, definitely strong enough to hold more body weight ahead of your hands. My stronger audience or more muscle bound audience, you're gonna need at least a couple feet. Allow yourself to go as far forward as you can without feeling like you're gonna face plant. And then you're gonna lift your hips as high as they can. If it's only here, that's fine. That's a good starting spot. Eventually you'll get to a point where you're about here, or maybe eventually we'll be able to fold in half like those flexible folks out there. In the meantime, you're gonna go as far forward as you can with your shoulders, hips as high as you can, as close to your hands. And you'll find it's kind of hard to balance right here because you're basically, all your weight's on your hands. You're about 90-10 right now, 90 hands, 10 feet. And then from here, you're gonna press into a handstand. Not kick up, press. And by press, I mean your shoulders go towards your hands and your hips go up. That was more of a kick, but kind of a press. So that'll probably be what your first couple look like. But then as you get more comfortable with it, it'll look more like that. And then you can use that wall as a balance point once you're up. What's the whole point of all this? In order to get away from the wall and do handstands on your own, you need to learn how to get up consistently. Getting up consistently is easier when your hips don't have as far to move. Your hips have a lot of momentum and they will take you out of your handstand. And you'll end up doing walking handstands, which are fun, but it's better to learn how to hold one than just go into walking. Once you can hold one, you can walk. If you can walk, you can't necessarily hold. A lot easier to keep moving than hold it stationary. So, get good at going up against the wall, a little ways away, and pressing into a handstand where you're not using the wall. People that kick will use the wall every time, or damn near every time, because it's a guessing game of how high or hard you need to kick. You're like, oh, that was an undershoot. And then you go here, that's an overshoot. And then you're like, oh, maybe I got it just right. Or, instead, get good at, you get here, and press, and you're in handstand. That's what, you just did a handstand. That's it. Now you're like, okay, I can do a handstand. I don't need the wall. And that's exactly where I want your mindset to be. If you can press into a handstand next to a wall, you don't need the wall. And then you're doing handstands. Simple as that. Some little tips here and there. Your fingers, your weight should be between the pads of my fingers and my fingertips. Once they get towards the heel, then you have to kind of do like a handstand push-up to catch yourself, or really have to let your hips drop over the top. But you'll just get familiar with that as you practice. But your fingers are very active, your legs are kind of quiet. By quiet, I mean don't lock them out, don't worry about like flexing them as hard as you can. They're just there as counterbalance. When you're standing, if I lock out my legs, I'm gonna lose all my balance. So when you're doing a handstand, there should be a little bend in your arms. Not a ton, but enough to give you some more stability beyond your fingertips. Your grip is very strong, but it could use assistance. That's why I say keep your arms a little bent. The next thing is when you're standing, notice my arms are out here, right? So that if, well, there's no wind inside, but if there's something that's gonna shift me off my spot, my arms act as a counterbalance, like someone walking on a tightrope, right? You're gonna have your arms out here, so that as your body starts to go, there's something holding it, right? That's what your legs work as when you're upside down. When you try to do this like perfect feet together handstand, what happens is the same thing that would happen if I told you to stand with your arms against your side. If some wind came along, you're gonna have to work way harder in your feet and your legs to grab the ground, which our feet and legs are very strong, so you'll be fine. But when you flip that, you're putting a lot of stress on your arms and your hands. So how do you make it easier? Let your legs go loose. For all my first time handstanders out there, or people that are just getting into it and learning and following these steps, I think your first handstand will look something like this. That's a handstand. But yeah, we can work on straight arms, feet together, get it stacked so we're nice and straight. But that doesn't matter. But notice how when I started to try to straighten everything out, I lost my balance a little bit. It's because it's hard. It's hard to be locked out. You gotta be loose from the hips up. I can't leave you without the most important step, okay? Come here, listen close. I'll bring you in. You ready? The secret to handstands? Consistency. By consistency, I mean you need to get comfortable with being upside down and what it feels like to be in a handstand. So, do it every day. You don't need to do it for 100 days. Maybe you can if you want, but at least start out a week, okay? 5 days minimum. And every day that you try doesn't need to be a half-hour session. Actually, I'd say don't go over 15 minutes. The sweet spot's between that 5 to 10 minute window, okay? 5 minutes is plenty. What you want to work on is being comfortable with going upside down. If you do like 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there, every day for 6 days, I'm sure you're gonna get pretty close to having a handstand all on your own. And honestly, if you're like me, you might get addicted. So consistency won't be a problem by the time you're 7 days in, because it's gonna click and you're gonna wanna do it all the time. But at the same time, when you're seeking perfection or trying to look the best on it, you're gonna get frustrated and you're gonna spend way too much time, maybe an hour plus, trying to do a handstand or a half hour plus, and then the next day your wrists are gonna kill you, your shoulders are gonna kill you. Yeah, you're gonna have soreness, but to mitigate that soreness, keep the practice reasonable. I'd rather see you do it every day for 5 minutes a day than an hour one day, take a week off because your body literally can't support it, and then try again next week. That's too much time in between. When you're learning a skill like this, it's less about how strong you are or how flexible you are, it's more the technique. Technique needs to be practiced frequently. There you go, guys. I think that about sums it up. I might have gotten too wordy, but I love it, and I hope this helps someone out there. I know a lot of you out there have been asking for handstand tutorials, and here you are. So maybe another one will be coming shortly or down the road where I can add a couple more tidbits, but I think I got the gist, and I hope this really helps you. Remember, keep those hands wide, keep the consistency up, and just worry about getting your hips over your shoulders, over your hands, okay? And have fun. Always have fun. Until then, subscribe, follow, @ThorGolfs, any of the socials, you can find me, and I'm always here to help, so comment, DM me if you need any help. I'm here for you. To show my appreciation for you subscribing below, I'm going to do a backflip for every single one of you in my next video. So go ahead and smash that subscribe button. Let's see how many backflips I'm going to have to do. Until next time, stay consistent. I don't know how well this went, but I hope it helped you and gave you insight on how you can get into the handstand community. It's so much fun once you learn how to handstand.